dominated the field.
I think one or two of the riders are bewildered because they are falling already, and we're so early into the contest. Lots more to come. Don't go away. Welcome back, and the race is getting close to sprint number one as Chris Lawless of Team Wiggins just starts to distance himself by a short advantage.
A depleted peloton now at the head of this race, just trying to chase down Chris Lawless for the Wiggins team.
Well, it's the klaxon this time, and that means we are into the first of the sprint laps. And Lawless, the 19-year-old from Wigan, has chosen his moment well to take flight.
Well, the team of Wiggins hasn't done extremely well in the Tour Series so far, sitting at the bottom of the pile in last place, but this man here has been showing well in the last few rounds and trying to do something in the individual honours.
At the moment, he's got clear daylight behind him. It's a matter of who is going to take up the chase. Team Wiggins are nowhere in the classification hunt for the trophy as the best squad, but of course there's the individual honours at stake as well, and it's Lawless who takes a cursory look back to see what kind of advantage he's generated.
So back on Tom Cam from Madison Genesis, and you just see One Pro Cycling and Madison Genesis not really taking up the chase. It's a team competition and not really worried about Chris Lawless.
And of course Tom Stewart is the man that's got the jersey on his shoulders as the overall leader in the Chain Reaction Cycles points jersey. But it is Lawless that is clear, and if he maintains this advantage he will pick up the 5 points, and the crowd beginning to warm to the event as he gingerly approaches this right-hander.
Yeah, he just has to be careful, get round this corner onto the cobbles, onto this incline, and he's riding very well. We started the day with Madison Genesis at the top of the leaderboards, 3 points ahead of One Pro Cycling. They are watching each other. You can just see some of the riders, one of the riders from Madison Genesis just coming onto that front group.
But really this course is all about this brute of a climb, and when they cover round about 30 laps you can tell just how demanding it can get. Well, now then, the gap is coming down here. Riders beginning to close down on Lawless.
So it's last year's winner, John Mould, coming up for One Pro Cycling. Straight past him, and he's thinking of gaining some points in the points competition tonight.
Yeah, and John Mould not only won the event here in Durham last year, he tidied up the sprint competition as well. And the Welshman beginning to turn the screw, and he's gone right past the previous leader, and that is Lawless, and he's left him in his wake, and it's now Mould looking to try and get away from the group. And Christian House, he's coming through.
So the previous round individual winner in Motherwell, Christian House, realises the danger of John Mould, doesn't want him going down the road, and is trying to chase him down.
And obviously the severity of the climb was too much for Chris Lawless to stay ahead. And now what it has done, it's given us 3 riders that are now chasing down John Mould. But Mould looks full of riding to me.
Just look at this peloton. Plenty of orange helmets of the leaders, Madison Genesis, looking behind. I believe the NFTO rider with Christian House was in fact Johnny McAvoy.
And there is the result of sprint 1. Mould gets the 5, Christian House 4, Lawless the 3, McAvoy gets 2, and Tom Stewart 1. He'll be pleased about that because remember, he at the moment is the current leader of that competition.
So back on the lamp cam of Steve Lampier from Rally GAC, and they've got some work to do on the team competition. So just following through the pits area on the left hand side, that'll be really important because this race is split to pieces. We reflect on how the sports directors at the side of the roads in this circuit are giving that information of where all the team are sitting in this particular team competition.
Well, this is a hugely impressive effort by Mould, but he has actually now got company. The rider from NFTO has bridged to him.
And it's Ian Bibby who won a stage of the Tour of Ireland last week. So Ian Bibby with John Mould at the front of the race. Big reaction from Tom Stewart from Madison Genesis.
Yeah, Stewart burying himself here and gritting his teeth as he pulls the rest of the peloton along to link up with the brace of leaders.
So plenty of groups throughout this circuit, but it's the Catalan rider, 23-year-old Marino, on the attack yet again.
He's obviously finding this course to his liking because he was bubbling over in the earlier stages, but once again JLT Condor are providing a rider off the front of the peloton, and this is Handley coming up then to join Marino.
So Handley at the front coming through for JLT Condor. He wants to push on, but just see a very small group of about 8 riders just behind.
Good rider then, Handley, 24 years of age, and he finished 10th in the recent Tour of Yorkshire, so he's obviously got the good legs, and that climb there will certainly not faze him after the climbs they had to endure in that Tour.
So chasing at the front of the group behind, Ian Bibby just moves over to the right, and Marcin Biablocki, the Polish rider, 31-year-old for One Pro Cycling, takes up the chase.
He's pretty strong, is Biablocki, and he'll do a very good job for his squad. But these are the leaders taking the right-hander, and how encouraging it is to see that those roads are beginning to dry out. It means they can sweep into the bends with a lot more confidence.
Well, now this group of 50 riders that was on the start line, and we had some problems earlier on in this race because it's stretched out. All the riders can pick their own line, which makes it a little easier to do these corners.
That's Chris Lawless and Stephen Adams taking the right-hander as we come back to the riders at the front. And Handley just dancing on those pedals. Looks as though he's got too much strength for Marino.
He's looking good. He's tapping out a very good rhythm. And Marino just been distanced. He looks behind and you'll see Ian Bibby. Very few riders at the front of this race now, and very important, as we've already mentioned, just to see Handley just trying to get in the gutter to get a little bit smoother ride on these cobbles.
Well, JLT Condor's tails up at the moment. If they were to win tonight, that would be the 3rd consecutive individual victory. It started off with Clancy in Aberystwyth, then it was continued with Christian House in the last round in Motherwell, and now they've got this youngster out in front and dictating the race, and this is Handley.
Well, it's not only a difficult course, it's difficult to work out where your teammates are. As you see Tom Stewart following Ian Bibby, he wants more points in this points competition.
And there it is, the klaxon, you can see the lights flashing, so they are now into the 2nd of the sprint laps.
So Stewart following his teammate Tom Scully, the Kiwi just in front of him. They are the leaders of the Tour Series, and they have 2 riders in this front group here.
It's amazing, isn't it, how this race has disintegrated already due to the severity of the climb. But this fella here, look at that for a relaxed style. Handley, he is in charge of the contest at the moment. Very comfortable position to be in as well.
So the 24-year-old from Warrington looking good. Christian House policing things at the front of this group. A lot of looking behind. They're trying to work out how many teammates they've got at the front of this race.
Well, there's just 2 from Madison Genesis. You can see them in those bright orange helmets. And let us not forget, this is a contest all about where you place the 5 riders. It's the cumulative time of the 5 team members that count. So Handley's the man that is cleared at the moment. And Madison Genesis are, well, they've only got 2 in that little group.
Well, just look at the speed they're coming down this descent, as it's the Polish rider from One Pro Cycling, Marcin Biablocki, that leads it into this corner.
And One Pro Cycling have got 2 in that group as well, and they are currently 2nd in the overall standings of the team contest, 3 behind Madison Genesis. So it's even Stevens at the moment.
It is. We've got a group of about 11, 12 riders at the front of the race. 2 riders from One Pro Cycling, as you said, 2 from Madison Genesis, 2 from JLT Condor as well, 1 from Peril Heaven. So looking good for the top 2 teams in the Tour Series overall.
If it was to remain like this, of course, how important would it be then, of course, for their 3rd, 4th and 5th riders?
Well, just looking here, this is the 3rd rider in the Madison Genesis team, Tobin Horton, just going through the picture. This race is split to pieces. The sports directors will have to think quick, get that information to the riders at the front so they'll know where their other teammates are in this course.
This is indicative of Durham, isn't it? Every time we come here, the race gets totally blown to smithereens. Well, over the line first is Richard Handley. He picks up the 5, and we're now waiting for the arrival of, well, what is left of the front group.
Christian House here just looks behind. He's got a teammate in front. Don't think there'll be too much of a sprint as we see Tom Stewart just coming up on the left-hand side. Easy
points then for Stewart. It was Biablocki actually that went over on the right of our screen to collect the 4 points, and we'll confirm the result. Here it is. So it was Handley that got the 5, Biablocki 4, Christian House the 3, Bibby the 2, and Stewart picks up 1 to add to the 1 he got in sprint number 1. So it means after 2 sprints, Christian House is leading with 7 points, Richard Handley and Mulder tying on 5, Marcin Biablocki's got 4, Chris Lawless has got 3. Welcome back, and Handley continues to tap the rhythm out here. He's found the right place to be, right at the front, and already the race has been embroidered with so many different stories to tell, and I still feel we've got the best to come.
So the klaxon goes, we're on to the yet again another sprint lap. Richard Handley on his own here off the front on the Tour Series round here in Durham, and looking at the history of this race, so many times over the last few years this has been won by a single lone leader.
Certainly has. He's right forward on the peak of the saddle. That's always a telltale sign of how much it is hurting as he continues to lever this gear over. Now that it's further back, we're going to concentrate on, because it's totally decimated. They're all in different groups trying to claw their way up into the safety of the wheel ahead.
Did look as if Ian Bibby there was starting to suffer. He put his hand out to Tom Stewart as if to say, come past me, I'm starting to struggle.
Well, Christian House we're looking at here, and House is always right up there in the mix, and he's not going to be far away this time.
Looks as if Lawless has made it back into this front group. So Lawless in the previous laps was slightly distant, so another excellent ride there by the man from Wigan. But
it's Handley that's covering himself in glory at the moment, right at the front, and look, he's going to pick up one or two back markers here, and if they act in a sporting gentlemanly way, they'll keep to one side of the road to allow him to sweep by.
Well, he went round that corner particularly well, and looking good off the front, picking his own lines. No real chase behind, everybody just looking behind to see if there's anybody coming up. Looks as if there's a couple of back markers just at the back of this front group.
There's one thing to say here, Brian, there's nobody in the comfort zone apart from the lone leader, and your overview there was perfect. There are three teams with two riders in that group, and it's all about where the third and fourth are going to finish, and I don't think any of them at the moment know how to tackle this.
They're relying on the information coming from the side of the pits area, where the sports directors will be getting that information up. As we said, a couple of back markers at the back there, Davy Lines there for Starley Primal. But back to the front, John Mould for One Pro Cycling, leading into this corner with Tom Stewart in second.
So John Mould it is, looking as though he wants to try and scoop up a few points when they get to the line this time. Nobody's going to catch the fella at the front. He's absolutely steaming around the circuit. 100 metres to go as we look at the rider from Raleigh here, who's going to be caught by Handley, the leader. There we are. So they've lost a lap.
So Domagowski goes through for Team Raleigh GAC, but this man is on his own, picking up maximum points, and he just has to pick his way by these back markers and keep the momentum high.
But in actual fact, he's tucking in behind to take a breather here before he continues the pressure, as we look at Ed Clancy leading a back group through.
An intelligent move from Richard Handley. He's been on his own for a few laps, just takes a bit of a breather behind these back markers, now goes to the front and piles more pressure on.
Well, Handley's certainly having a very, very fruitful visit here to Durham. He won Sprint 2 and Sprint 3, so he's got 10 in the bag. Now the peloton are looking at each other, and I don't think they can quite work out what they're supposed to do.
Well, this is the second group. As you said, two riders in there for the leaders, Madison Genesis in the orange helmets, two in there for One Pro Cycling.
Well, here comes the rest of the group to pick up the points. No sprinting, no urgency at all there. And it was Tom Stewart who looks back, the leader of that Chain Reaction Cycles points jersey competition, that picked up a very easy 4. His confirmation then, Handley got the 5, Stewart 4, Mole 3, House 2 and Lawless 1. So Stewart's doing a very, very good job here to retain his overall lead. But there are the standings after 3 sprints tonight. Handley with the 10 points is the leader, head of House, Mould, Stewart and Lawless. And we've got one more sprint that counts towards that competition, and that is when they all charge for the line to decide who is going to be the victor here in Durham. Another big attack off the front by the big pole, Marcin Bielablocki of One Pro Cycling.
So the top two teams in the Tour Series, One Pro Cycling and Madison Genesis, starting the attacks.
So Bielablocki trying to get away from the group. So One Pro Cycling, remember, who started second in the overall team standings, 3 points behind Madison Genesis, and now trying to put them to the sword.
So Bielablocki it is for One Pro Cycling, still on the front. Tom Stewart for Madison Genesis chasing them down. We have one rider in front, that is Richard Handley. Then we've got a group of 9, albeit with 2 back markers at the back of that group.
But it's so